Okay, everybody. Do everyone see that? Everyone see the PDF?
Yep.
Yep, great. All right, so as you will have just seen, I have sent you two documents. Basically, this is just a very simplified overview of what to do next week. Again, this will be due at the beginning of class. There will be three components to this. The first being a presentation just via Miro board. I think 8 to 10 minutes. And of course, if you go over that, that's fine. I don't want to under 8 minutes. I'd like you to give yourself time to sort of go over everything. Again, you've been practicing a lot of what you're going to be doing. We've been doing it casually. This is going to be a more formal presentation, although I'm not asking for slides, but I'm saying that this can just your slides, I guess, could be on the Miro board, but using Miro as the platform from which to give this presentation. Basically, what you want to do is you want to start with going over an overview of the environmental cause. Again, you're practicing talking about this and synthesizing down all that you've researched into a concise introduction. Then you want to clearly define who the target audiences are. And I think it's important to state who uses the slogan, who you would expect to use this, and then B, who's the slogan directed to. Then you want to clearly state what the message theme is. I think that's 1 or 2 sentences, no more than a paragraph, to explain what is the focus of the message theme. And then you want to go over the exploration and development of the graphic work. You must include images of hand sketches. I do want to see the fact that you have been working through this via your hand first, or back and forth, and I want those images, scan those images out of or take photos off the sketchbook or however way you're doing that, and bring that into the presentation. Then there are going to be two documents that you're actually going to submit to me via email at the end of class. One will be a slogan version document, which is the second document I sent in the email, which you'll see there's the example. This is just a simple letter-sized document created in Illustrator with two graphic versions of the slogan with name of original typeface and author. So basically, you're only producing 2 graphic versions of the slogan. And this document is to, and I'll just show you here, this document is to just very clearly state that these are the two versions. And again, they indicate which typeface, which font, and the typographer if it's known. So that is, and you can create whatever way you want to create the composition on the page is up to you, but this provides you a very clear example of that. Then in a second Word document or PDF document, I need, again, the overview of the environmental cause, target audiences, and the message theme, just clearly written out in a very simple document. Make sure your name's on the document, and I don't care how you title the document. It's not, I can retitle it myself if I need to, just these 2 documents in an email. So any questions about those 2, the three things you need to have ready for next week? Again, does this seem reasonable within a week? Great. Any concerns? Okay. So again, I recognize we have a very short turnaround on this, and so I want to keep it manageable, and I really want to see a good graphic exploration. So again, what I'm suggesting for an overview of the work to be carried out for the following week, basically what you need to do is obviously prepare for the submission guidelines. You want to, again, you're only choosing one slogan, very No question. Please don't be confused by this. One slogan only, and then you're creating two graphic word marks that demonstrate the results of an advanced exploration of A, two different typefaces, and I'm going to go over that with you in just a minute, which you're going to be using. I'm recommending using Font Shop. B, an exploration of the characteristics of the font, including parts of the letter form and forms, spacing, line length, etc. And C, color through stroke fill, texture, etc. And anything else you want to bring to that exploration of that is absolutely fine. I'm going to actually give you a little demonstration using Font Shop at the end of this presentation, so we'll come back to this in just a minute. We'll come back to this. All right. So here we are. Yeah. So again, as I state, a lot of few of these slides I showed at the beginning of the semester. Again, I want you to go back to the readings that I have in our Dropbox. Again, the readings that I put in the very first week, I've moved to be part of Part C. There's a whole overview of a discussion of the type of typefaces that are used in political campaigns and how in the United States they're starting to be associated with particular parties. This is in no way to tell you that I want you to work with use those US guidelines. They're not even guidelines, but the inferring that's taking place already within graphic standards. I don't want you to at all adhere to any of that, but I just want you to be aware of the conversation that's taking place. So please refer back to the readings. If you haven't already looked at this site gives you an extraordinary overview of a whole range of campaign logos that have been created, that exist. I think that exist now and have been created. I'm not sure if they go back to previous campaigns. I think to give a little bit of historical perspective on what we're doing, I wanted to introduce you to a few former designers, artists, and some books that if you wanted to do further research, that would provide you a good foundation. To me, what I think is the foundation to what it is that we're doing in this course, and that provides you that historical perspective if you want to delve into this further. Alexander Rodchenko and Lupov Popova are two individuals that are really sort of I would say the godfathers to what we are doing in terms of graphic sloganing for political movements. Again, we're dealing with environmental causes in this course. There's a great exhibition at the Tate Museum on their website. They had an exhibition in 2009. Please go and have a look at this exhibition, but this gives you a great sense of the history of these individuals and the particular area. It covers their work. They were interdisciplinary artists, designers. They came up with proposals for architecture, for pavilions, for products, but they also did these posters and graphic campaigns. Here you'll see two great images by Alexander Rodchenko dealing with slogans that dealt with promoting agriculture on the left, and the other on air flight. Particularly the one on the right was dealing more with sort of promoting a particular industry. Both were dealing with developing industries. And I would say there was more of a political slant on the agricultural one on the left, the right being more about advocating for a particular industry. If you go look on the exhibitions, they'll provide you hopefully some more insight into these posters. The great thing about these is the combination of type forms, color, composition, even illustrative elements. And when I was looking at this work, I was wondering whether or not you need to be considering bringing illustrative elements in this. And I think at this stage, that's probably too much to think about. And again, we're really focusing on a word mark. And I know that, for example, with Robin, we're talking about adding the 12 to the C. And so, maybe that the way in which the 12 is articulated in regards to the scene may take on more illustrative qualities, maybe. But I think that's going to be very careful when thinking about that in regards to the typeface that you're looking at. It really needs to work within that. But nevertheless, I think these historical references give you some things to sort of think about in regards to composition, to illustration, in regards to form. Here we have something in regards to trade union, which I think this would be a clear example of a more political campaign that Rodchenko would be involved in. Again, great example of color composition. Here we're not necessarily looking at illustrative elements. We would say, I would argue that this is bringing in more bitmap imagery rather than vector-based imagery, which I don't think bitmap imagery is what I think that's too far of a divergent in this, but maybe this may inform what you do later on in the semester in the other projects. Anyhow, another good historical example. Here we have a slogan for a play. They did poster work. Their slogan work also is used in plays. And here we see a wonderful sort of example of development work through sketching. I encourage all of you to work in your sketchbook before, if you can, before you start to commit to working in Illustrator. I think giving yourself some quick direction, and I'll show you some things out of my sketchbook that will show you and I think all of you know this, the sort of expediency of working through a number of ideas before you put mouse pad, finger to mouse pad, or finger to mouse. In the U.S. and North America, U.S. in particular, we can see how slogans took on important aspects around political action. Here we're looking at the work program, the WPA, which was coming out of the Great Depression in the 1920s, the economic depression that took place, in which the American administration put people to work, had a whole federal campaign to get people back to work that was basically subsidized by the government. But within that, there were a whole series of posters that were created to help get industry involved, to get people motivated to go to work, and to bridge industries with the populace and putting them. This book shows a lot of those posters and those slogans. I don't have any examples here, but this is a book that you want to look at that will show you that in regards to sort of political economic initiatives of the late 1920s, early 30s. Another book that you might want to have a look at, if you want to be purchasing these, you can also look online at this, is Iron Fists, the branding of the century totalitarian state, 20th century totalitarian state, excuse me. So this is looking at more sort of fascist totalitarian governments and how they used graphics to promote their political agendas, their ideology. We talked a little bit about that in regards to Trump, but here we have a whole book focused on that of the 20th century. Obviously, the Nazi Party is one that had close alignments with artists and architects, and Hitler, being a failed artist, saw the political party as an extension of a kind of art activity in a way. So he brought a whole range of practitioners to help craft the message, both in two-dimensional form, but also in spatial form as well. Here we have an example of one of these posters. The USSR, the Communist campaign post-war, certainly, or pre-war, excuse me, here we have pre-war, was also used the graphic voice, the graphic poster, as a way to promote its ideology, its political campaigns. It's interesting here that the Nazi salute was actually appropriated from Lenin prior to World War II. Another coming back to more the U.S. and more democratic ideals. There's a whole book on campaign posters going back to the 19th century. I don't have any examples here, but this would be a book you'd want to look at. So a recent book that deals with logos for presidential elections, which that website that I showed earlier provides that, and how slogans were put on buttons. This dissemination buttons are, this may be something you may want to refer back to when we start to get into ideas of dissemination of your slogans. Again, one of the most famous slogans, Hope, for Barack Obama, really was on the heels of what Jesse Jackson, an African-American who ran for president in 1988, the sort of abstraction or graphic form, I would imagine that the firm that built Obama's O and Hope were familiar with Jesse Jackson's campaign, and so there's an interesting lineage to Obama's campaign based upon what Jesse Jackson had done in '88. Switching gears, as I introduced you to before, if you haven't looked at her work, Barbara Kruger is absolutely someone you need to know about. Her use of bitmap imagery. She had come out of advertising and became aligned with contemporary art, photography, and a feminist voice of the 80s, 1980s. She rose to prominence in the 80s, but her use of this particular italicized sans serif was the sort of her trademark in a way. And so, does anybody know what that typeface is? I don't know off the top of my head what that is. Anyhow, this became her trademark. The red, that against this sort of block of color, block of red. Yep. Anybody? Sorry. Anyhow, these.
Sorry, I was gonna say possibly Futura.
Futura, maybe. I've forgotten. My apologies. Anyhow, these were always superimposed on top of bitmap imagery, period imagery that she had appropriated, and this sort of juxtaposition between these catchy slogans with that of feminist imagery. I shop, therefore I am, being one of the most popular ones that she created. Forgive me, I don't have the date on which this was produced, but the nice use of scale in regards to product. Wonderful sort of juxtaposition. Again, these images may become important once we start getting into how you position this in ways of dissemination. You'll probably refer back to these again. And Your Body is a Battleground, one of the most famous ones that came out of her whole body of work. Again, really around feminist theory and really dealing with the imbalance in gender that was central to her conversation in the 80s, and I think possibly in the 90s. Jenny Holzer, I think she's First Nations out of the U.S. Her work also dealt with feminist issues and empowering women. Really an important figure in the contemporary art world in the late 80s, still today, obviously. She really came to prominence in these scrolling LCD displays that rolled out these wonderful sort of light installation slogans within the gallery setting. Really extremely important figure, working primarily in digital display, early digital display at the time. As we talked about before, mechanism. Absolute key to a great example of what we've been looking at. I don't want to stop the lecture to pull up their website, but please go have a look at their website today, especially to see the work. I couldn't find their work on Biden and Harris. Interesting enough, I don't know if I just overlooked it, but I couldn't actually find. They haven't actually. I don't know if they've actually put that work on their website yet, but we can see how they worked on different disseminations of that branding. Also, different forms of that branding depending on its placement. We looked at its relationship to the built environment, and the one that I want you to have a look at is It's On Us, which is under the case studies. Do have a look at that, especially Robin and Melanie, in terms of how they used it, how other people took that on and then brought it into their particular context. Another studio that you need to know about is Channel Studio, who were instrumental in creating the website for the Center for American Politics and Design. Their site, quite instrumental in terms of being a sort of cataloging of all the slogans. Please have a look at that. We talked about how particular slogans, especially in regards to what they call the I don't want to say OCD. Oh, I'm forgetting her name. I apologize.
AOC.
AOC. Thank you. Right there, it is, right there. The AOC slant. Sorry, AOC. God, I always get the names confused in terms of backwards. So AOC slant. Many European candidates took that on board, and we can see more of these here in regards to color and composition in regards to posters. We're going to be looking at Font Shop today to start to get you looking at different typefaces, and I'm going to take you through an exercise on how to generate, how to pull out typefaces. What I want you to be doing is, I'm not recommending that you buy new typefaces, but I'm recommending you use typefaces, not just simply taking them off of the website, but using them and manipulating them. Now, I've had students in the past, I've recommended these in other classes, and I've had students in the past accuse me of promoting unethical design practices by stealing other people's work, and that's not what I'm suggesting here. This is taking work, what I'm going to show you in terms of taking type off these sites is something that we do in our design practices as a way to show, to use a type and not having to invest in that, but showing that type to a particular client and getting a client interested in that type so that they will then pay for the purchase of that particular typeface for use in their work. And so I'm going to show you a strategy for lifting a typeface off this site and using it in your work. So we'll go over that. And I might have given this, Matthew, when you were in Studio 3. I know I gave this to you, Melanie, this last semester, and I'll go over this again. This is critical because what I want you to do is I want you to play with the actual individual letter forms. Once you actually find a typeface, I don't want you to just use the existing typeface, but I want you to in some way bring something else to the letter forms, and bring something more of yourself to that. And so we do that by extending arms, ascenders, playing with hairline, crossbars, doing a whole range of things to individual characters. And I want you, the expectation is I want you to do that. I did that with using this typeface. This is B, and forgive me, I don't know, I've yet to find out who the font designer is, but I used this typeface and then made adjustments to the typeface. I brought the dot over the I. I separated that from the actual ascender within the I. I also brought in these, maybe what we could call spurs, down here at the side. I extended those out and then played with their alignment here in my use of this. And of course, I was interested in the outline, the stroke in regards to the fill. Basically, you're going to be breaking a lot of the rules that if you've taken type from Mei Chung, we're taking what May's taught you, and then we're
blasphemy.
What's that? It is blasphemy.
Blasphemy.
Absolutely, it's blasphemy. But there's it is part of what we can do as designers, and it's not unethical at all. So, and there's plenty of examples of this. This is a great publication, sort of cultural production publication coming out of the U.S. called Lemon, and you can see here them taking a particular type and then manipulating the particular letter forms here, the M. Also, they took particular type and then took its fill and then brought particular stylistic elements to the fill of that. And of course, then you can see examples there at the bottom in the second part there, how they played with the particular characters themselves at particular points in the text. So I want you to, because we're going to be taking type off of Font Shop without paying for it, you can't just use it as it is. You've got to make it your own. But this also allows you to bring a level of creativity to this. We can also see examples of using the fill in terms of graphic imagery. When you look at the "It's on Us" campaign from Mechanism, they did the same thing within their word mark for that campaign. So these are the things that I want you to play with. This is the assignment. Again, let me go into any questions, and I'm going to go into Font Shop now and just take you through a quick tutorial. Anybody have any questions about the assignment?
Yeah, so for the actual deliverable, do you want the slogan to just be set in a typeface, or do you want it to be like fully manipulated?
I'd like it to be manipulated at some level.
Okay.
I want to be careful not to say fully. I don't know what fully doesn't. I don't know what fully means, but I'm going to take you through a tutorial of how I recommend you do this. So basically, you're going to be lifting a typeface off of Fontbook, off of Font Shop. You're going to be bringing that PNG into into Illustrator. You're going to be turning that into a vector, and then you're going to be manipulating that vector, basically. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. It's very, very straightforward.
Okay.
But that provides you a whole range of manipulating letter form, manipulating spacing, really to take full control of that, right? Yes, I want you to give authorship to the letter form, to the type. Of course, you're going to pick a font, which means, of course, what weight that is, and then you're going to provide the author. Just so we're clear in terminology, typeface, whole body of type, font refers to weight, right? Bold, italicized, and so forth. Just so we're making sure. Are we on the same page in terms of that type language? Okay, good. So
I was also going to ask, so
Sure.
we're not introducing color at all yet?
No, you are. You can start.
Okay.
Absolutely. If you go back to the assignment sheet, it says, I want you to start to play with color. That also, okay. In terms of, again, you're making two decisions. You're presenting two versions. That's not to say that those can still evolve going forward, but I need you to make a decision on two versions.
And are we able to introduce shapes on top of it?
That's a great question. Yes, I think you can, absolutely. So if you've got a shape that's actually framing that, absolutely. I failed to mention that, but yes, I think that having a frame around that, absolutely. If you go back to Rodchenko's work, right, we have these geometric forms that are, and as we see with many, even with the campaign posters, we see them around a rectangle or around a circle form. Absolutely. What would we call that, folks? What is the terminology for laying a logo, a word mark against a field of a particular block of color? Is there a particular name for that? Anyhow.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was gonna play with adding in a peace sign, although stay tuned, or adding like a square around the U as like a periodic table tab.
That'd be fine. I think be careful about illustration. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think right now we want to stay away from illustrative elements. Maybe we bring those later on. But I think, yes, you could bring a block of color against the U. Absolutely. Let me just bring up the presentation again, and we'll just quickly have a look here. Are we sharing screen here? Let me just share screen. So if we go back to the campaigns here, right, so you have a block of color behind Le Human Abord, right?
Yeah.
If we go back to these, look at, we've got blocks of color here. I think absolutely, if you want, I think what can be, I think what we can, I think keep it to blocks of color that you can put behind it. And
simple shapes.
Simple shapes, absolutely. You know, if you want to, I just don't want, you know, this gets, you know, this one up here gets into illustrative qualities a bit, you know?
And also Al Green at the bottom right corner, and also Adrienne Bell.
Yeah.
Also have like very illustrative. So not that, but something similar to like Adair or Adam Smith.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Or Swisher is a good example.
And I think that also will help you manage your workload, because I think if you start getting in, I think you just need to get a word mark done. And I think that's hard enough as it is. That's really hard. I mean, the amount of time it took me to get the header for the course, for that poster, that took a long time. And I think I just want you to focus on that. And then it's going to be easier to add illustrative elements later. And anybody, those of you who work in illustration know how much time that takes too. And that's just going to be a distraction. It's type, and really bold type, right? So let's just talk a little bit about FontShop and how to move forward. I'm going to move between FontShop and Illustrator here just to make sure you understand our kind of workflow. Melanie, forgive me, I know you've seen this, I think, before, but I'll just go over this again. We're capturing this on here. I'll share screen. So here's FontShop. If you're not familiar, this great site for new fonts. So what I would do is, now that you've identified your target audience and the focus of your message, start to find a typeface that you feel is indicative of what is embodying the feeling of your environmental campaign. The great thing about FontShop is that you can type in your slogan. So I'll type in my slogan. I'll just type in a slogan. Let's dance. Let's dance, which is a David Bowie reference. And we can go here. Sorry, maybe that's not here. New fonts. Sorry, discover. Sorry, here. Let's go. Let's start from fresh here. Let's go. Let's just go here. Start from fresh here. So fonts foundry, new fonts. Here we are, and here, this is where you can put in your slogan. Great, and I'll do it capitals. Actually, I'll do one. Let's do one lowercase and one, just so we can sort of see. Let's dance, and we'll do even a punctuation here. Let's dance. So I've got, this is my environmental cause, this is my slogan, and now what I can do is I can start to look at, and I'm going to start with new fonts. I can explore all over this place, all over the site, but I can then start to look to see what I think works well with this. And so I'm going to say immediately, I like this one. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here, and I want to, some of them will allow me to see my slogan in regards to, some of them won't let you do that. It's quite interesting. Oh, so here we are. So it will let me do that. I'm going to keep it lowercase. Let's dance. And I can even, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to, I'm going to spend an hour. I'm going to get a cup of coffee, and I'm going to spend an hour just collecting screenshots of the typeface, sorry, of the typeface. Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Typeface and my slogan here. I'm just going to do this. I'm not going to get into the weeds too much, but I'm just going to capture that with a screenshot. I'm then going to go back and I'm going to continue my, and I might even take a screenshot of this just so I know what this is. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to continue looking. Let's see, I decided that, oh, I like this one. And I'm going to take a screenshot of that one. And I'm going to have a look at this. I'll bring my my slogan back in. Let's dance. And then I'm going to take, and I can look to see the different weights on this. So there's Roman, sorry, different fonts. So I can look at extra bold. And okay, I like extra bold, sure. And I'll take a screenshot of this. So I'm going to do this for an hour. And I'm going to put a folder onto my desktop that's going to put all of these screenshots in there. I'm going to go away. I'm going to go have lunch. I'm going to go work on another class, whatever. I'm going to stop thinking about it. I'm going to come back and I'm going to then come back and I will look at my, let's see here. I'll just get my folder here, new folder. Hold on real quick. I'll stop sharing screen. I don't know if you're seeing my desktop, but I'll just put everything into a folder and I will today. So I've got my list here, and I know this is incredibly rudimentary, but I just want to show you. So I'm going to go through here, and I've got all of my screenshots here, all centrally located. And now I'm going to go through this, and I'm going to go through, and I'm going to pick 2 or 3 that I really like. I think that now that I think about it, I think this is it. I think this is it, and it's all based upon hunch and the emotive qualities that you feel the typeface is associated with the slogan and the cause. I'm then going to bring up Illustrator, and what I'm going to then do is I'm going to file place and save as. Actually, first of all, I'm going to go into Photoshop and I'm going to do a little bit of tweaking on my screen grabs. Just takes a while for this to come up. And file, let me just make sure I've got this path, clip and mask, compound path type. I'm going to go into Photoshop. Sorry, I should have already had Photoshop open. Give me just a minute. And I'm going to then create new and create new, and I want to do, sure, I'll do tabloid. Why not? Create, okay. Okay, so I'm going to bring in bring in the first one I did. I like the first one, so I'll just bring in that. So here we have Let's Dance. What I want to do now is I want to turn this into black and white, image mode, grayscale, and flatten, sure, discard, sure, great. And then what I'm going to do is then what I'll do is I'll crop this image, crop, and then come in here. And then what I will do is, let's see here, deselect, image, edit. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'll file save this, save as. Make sure I've got let's dance 1 and on just save. And I know this is probably incredibly mind-numbing here, but again, I feel compelled to be responsible to have to show you what I'm thinking about in workflow here. So then I come in here, file. I'm going to, of course, going to be place, file, object. I can just click and drag. Excuse me here. Hold on. Let me hide Photoshop. Are you seeing Illustrator? Or are we still on Photoshop? Go to Illustrator, and I will.
You can also pull an image into Illustrator and crop it there.
Yeah, probably so too. I mean, again, you probably have a much quicker ways to work. You're watching the old man crank this ridiculous stuff out, so my apologies.
That's okay.
Yeah. And of course, I'm not, now here we go. There we are. So let's dance is right there. So then I've got that. Want this nice and large. And then what I will then do is go up to my object, and I will then, where are we here? Image trace, make and expand. So we should get a menu. We should get, sometimes we get options here. Hold on, okay, let's just go back here. We should have, right, make, and we should have an option window here. Image tracing, here we go. I think we've got, oh, here we go, image tracing here. This is what we want, the window here, this palette tool here. So we can play with, a whole bunch of settings here to get different types of qualities and so forth. Anyway, play with these settings here, and then we go object, image trace, and then release. We do it. Did it do it? Nope. Let's go object, image trace, make and expand. Great. And then we go into layers. What we want to do then is, you'll see here we've got something grouped, so we want to right click. We want to right click on ungroup, and then what we want to do is we want to delete all of this other stuff, and now we should have. We want to clear out anything else here. Yeah, and we want to see what's going on with these. So we may not need these, and we want to delete that, and we'll delete those layers. And then we have our typeface, which we can then, our font with a particular typeface with a particular font, and we can now begin to play with this. Of course, you can click on these, and you can right click, which releases the compound path, which then you have the inside of that D there. You can do all that within that, which will allow you to then have more control of this. Again, remember that with this is not going to be very precise. So you're going to have to play with the palette window for the live trace to get the best reproduction of that vector image. But again, it will be imprecise, so you'll need to go in and clean things up. That's why you need to bring your own characteristics to the individual letter forms. This will also be sure that you are not completely appropriating someone's existing typeface, but you are taking that as a point of inspiration for developing your thing. So basically, that's it. That's the tutorial that I wanted to give you, and those basic steps will get you directly into your project and allow you to allow you the opportunity to find the most recent typefaces that are available on the market, allow you to find something really interesting, provide a whole range of options to you, and then giving yourself full creative potential by then live tracing that and then manipulating the various elements to this. Have I completely offended all of you with this? I've never shared this exercise with May, but I'm sure May would be horrified. But look, this is what you do in your design practices. You know, if you don't want to invest in buying a typeface, this is what you would do to show a client what you want to use for their product. And this then, I would argue, is a way for you to actually help a type designer make money off their type by trying to sell it to a client. So you're using a similar strategy in this. You are going to reference the type designer, obviously, in what you're doing. So there's going to be authorship provided to that. And so, but you're clearly going to be making it your own, though. What do we think, guys? I know Melanie, was that as good as before, or was that a little new? Do you remember that from Studio 3?
Yep.
Yeah, good. All right, folks, we're doing well here on time. We've got 10 minutes left for questions and comments about the assignment, the submission and requirements for the deadline. Does that all seem manageable? Great, good.
I've been tasked to do more with less time.
Yeah. The work's going to ramp up, obviously, but we needed to give you the space to sort of explore the work, the research, and I think today was incredibly valuable. I think the way you all have spent your last week has been incredibly beneficial, and I'm super thrilled with our conversation. I'm super thrilled with the slogans that we're coming up with and how they're manifesting themselves. And so now we need to get into design, and you need to pick a slogan. Again, remember, this is going to be a test case, folks. Things can evolve, right? Things can absolutely evolve. You know, if you come up with, you come upon even a better slogan halfway during the semester, you're going to be able to switch, no problem at all. If you find a better typeface halfway through, you can switch. But we just need to make some decisions now, okay? And then hope other things will reveal themselves as we move forward. Okay. Good. Remember, this is 30% of your grade. Okay. All right, everybody. We'll leave you at that, and have fun. I hope it's fun. It certainly was fun for me developing the banner, the header for the title for the studio. I had so much fun playing with the type and really crafting that. So I hope you can have some fun doing this. It gets really fun, especially once you've got a slogan that you love. And then it's just so much fun to see how it starts to take on different connotations based upon the typeface that you pick. Yeah. All right, everybody. If there's no other questions or comments, have fun. We'll see you next week. And yeah, email me if you've got any concerns about the assignment and the requirements. Great, everybody. Have a great. Thank you all very much.
See you later.
Take care. Thank you.